All right, let's dive in. We're going to decode one of the most important legal documents in human history. It's a complete blueprint for a society that was carved nearly 4,000 years ago into a single massive piece of stone. This is the Code of Hammurabi.
But before we get to the stone itself, let me ask you something. When you hear the word justice, what do you picture? Maybe a courtroom or a set of scales? It's a pretty powerful but abstract idea.
Well, for the people in ancient Mesopotamia, nearly 4,000 years ago, justice wasn't just some vague idea. Nope, it had a very physical, very imposing form, and it was absolutely designed to last forever.
And here it is. This is the stele of Hammurabi. Get this, it stands over 8 feet tall. I mean, just imagine standing next to that. It was built to tower over you, to be this constant, in-your-face reminder of the law. And the weight? A staggering 4 tons. That's about the same as 2 cars. So yeah, this was not some piece of paper you could just file away in a drawer. This was a monument, permanent.
And it's all carved from one single piece of black diorite. Now this is a really hard, super durable stone. So the message they're sending here is crystal clear, even before you read a single word, right? The laws on this thing, they are not going anywhere. They are unshakable.
Okay, so why go to all this trouble? Let's dig into the secret this ancient stone is holding. Yeah, this is so much more than just a big rock. It's a message, a really carefully crafted statement, both political and legal, for an entire kingdom. And to really get it, you've got to start right at the very top.
So look at the very peak of the stele. Right at the top, there's this carving. And this image, it's basically the key to understanding the whole thing. It shows a meeting between a god and a king.
Okay, so you got 2 figures here. On the left, that's King Hammurabi. He's standing, kind of showing respect. And on the right, sitting on a throne, that's Shamash, the god of justice. The body language alone tells you so much, doesn't it? The king stands, the god sits. Boom, you immediately know who's in charge. And there is absolutely no doubt that Shamash is a god. I mean, the artist just loaded him up with all these symbols of power. Check it out. He's got this crown with 4 pairs of horns. That's like a neon sign for major god back then. You've got flames, literal flames, coming off his shoulders. And in his hand, a ring and a staff. These were the classic ancient symbols of divine authority.
So what's the takeaway from this scene? It's pretty straightforward, actually. Shamash, the god of justice himself, is giving the law to King Hammurabi. This one picture sets up the whole deal. The message is these aren't just some rules Hammurabi made up. Oh no, these are divine laws coming straight from a god. This image is what gives the entire code its ultimate authority. All right, so if we move down from that divine meeting at the top, we get to the rest of the stone, and it is just covered, completely covered in text. This is where we get the blueprint for their entire society. How much text? We're talking 282 laws. And look, this isn't some short list like the 10 Commandments. This was a full-on, comprehensive legal framework for all the people of Babylon.
And these laws weren't just thrown on there randomly. Not at all. They were super organized, grouped by theme. They covered everything. You had laws for family life and marriage, for agriculture, for theft. They even had rules for professional standards, like for doctors and builders. It was a really sophisticated system designed for a pretty complex society.
But here's something you might not realize. If you think this whole thing is just that list of 282 rules, you're actually missing a huge part of the story. The text is really a 3-part narrative, and it's structured very deliberately.
First, you've got the prologue. This is where Hammurabi basically says, hey, the gods picked me to do this, to bring justice. Then you get to the main event, the 282 laws themselves, all the practical stuff. And finally, it wraps up with an epilogue. This part is like an instruction manual for future kings on how to use these laws to keep justice going forever. So it's the whole package, right? The why, the what, and the how-to.
And all of this, all 3,500 lines of text, was carved into that hard rock using cuneiform. That's one of the very first writing systems ever, with all those cool wedge-shaped marks. Can you just stop and imagine the time, the sheer skill it took to hand-carve this entire legal document into solid stone? It's just mind-boggling.
Okay, so now we have a pretty good idea of what the Code of Hammurabi is. But that leads to a much bigger question, one that we still wrestle with today. Was it, actually just?
Let's play this out. You could make a pretty good case for it being just, right? The laws came straight from the God of justice. They were organized, not just random, they even held professionals accountable. That all sounds pretty good. But then, you've got the other side of the coin. Does getting a law from a god automatically make it fair? All the power here flows from the top down, from the god to the king to the people. The people themselves, they didn't really have a say. There's no consent of the governed, which is something we think is super important for justice today.
And that leaves us with this huge, timeless question. For a law to really be just, where does its authority need to come from? Does it have to come from some divine, unquestionable source way up high? Or does it have to come from the people, the ones who actually have to live by those laws? This giant stone gives us one very powerful, 4,000-year-old answer. But honestly, it's a question we're all still trying to figure out.